everything is just where it needs to be. So all that's left to do now is just click OK and let the machine begin milling. You'll see that all the red spots where the drill holes used to be have disappeared, and now the machine will actually show you which hole it's doing and everything, and it should be a fairly automatic process from here on out. Once it finishes drilling all the holes of a specific size, the machine will also ask you to insert a different bit. So all you have to do is insert a bit of the same width, and click OK, and keep going. Once the drilling layer is done, the next step is to run one of the isolation layers. The top isolation layer is the layer that's actually going to cut out the traces that go between your parts on your board. So what we have to do here is we actually have to prepare the bit depth to make sure that it'll fit correctly, and it will cut correctly, and it'll be at the correct depth so as to not make too much dust, but to properly cut the copper. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and click on jog in order to manually control the machine and be able to adjust heights properly. So it's the same process as before. You click on jog and you can use the arrows on the keyboard to move the head of the machine. So you can see here that I've inserted the new tool into the machine, and I'm actually turning the tool on. This can be done by pressing the spindle on button in the jog window. I'm also forcing the machine to go down, or to be pushed down, by using the head down button. Once again, I'm using the wheel, which is labeled with the plus sign and the negative sign, to adjust the depth of the bit. This is a slow process. You want to take your time to adjust the bit correctly to make sure that it cuts the top layer of copper, but it does not cut too deep into the fiberglass. You just want to go slowly and make sure that it's cutting well and cutting evenly. And once you're satisfied with it, you click on the head up and spindle off button, and that should make the head ready to cut your circuit board. Before we can begin milling, we have to change this one final value. This value tells the machine how fast the head should move and how fast it should cut traces. I don't recommend doing anything over 20 inches per minute, because the faster you go, the much harder it is on the bit, and also the worse the cuts will be. 20 inches per minute is about a good compromise for this top layer and also for the bottom layer. So once you click OK, the machine should begin spinning up. It should head over to the first trace it'll cut, and you should see that pieces of the circuit will begin to turn yellow where the top isolation layer used to be. Once the machine is finished milling the top layer, you want to take off the tape and you want to flip the board so that the pin, the front alignment pin, is always passing through the board. You always want to make sure to align with that pin. Make sure that the front of the board is aligned correctly, and set down a couple pieces of tape just like before. Before we can begin milling the bottom isolation layers, we have to make sure that the head corresponds correctly to the bottom layer, and that's what we'll be doing next. What we have to do now to make sure that the machine aligns itself correctly is we have to right click on any single hole and go to Machine and jump to Cursor. What this will do is it'll move the machine head over to a hole on the circuit board. The reason we do this is to make sure that the machine is correctly aligned after we flip the board. Now, you have to choose Jump to Mirrored Cursor since we're working with the bottom layer and the bottom layer has been flipped. You want to do this a couple times to make sure that everything is centered correctly. And after you do it a couple times and you check to make sure on holes on different sides of the board that everything lines up correctly, you can proceed with milling the bottom layer. Milling the bottom layer should be very similar to milling the top layer. You should have to jog the machine and you just make your adjustments like you did on the top layer. But once you've done all of that, it should be fairly simple to do. All you need to do now is essentially run the layer, make sure that the depth and everything is correct, and run the bottom layer. The final step in milling a board is cutting it out. What I'm doing here is I'm getting rid of some artifacts that were left over from one of the Gerber files. You want to make sure that if you see any imperfections like this, that you just draw a box around them and delete them. The process is just the same for running this layer as any other layer. You right click on the layer, you click Run Layer. You want to change the speed to 60,000 RPMs, and since you'll be cutting out the board, you want to take care and cut it a bit slower. About 12 to 14 inches per minute is usually as fast as I'll go. You want to set the depth to about what a drill bit should be, just enough to penetrate the whole copper board, but you don't want to go too far into that sacrificial layer. Now you want to jog, insert your bit, everything else, and once you're ready to go, just click OK. Once the machine is finished milling your board, go ahead and take out the bit and use material change to move the head out of the way. Pull off your circuit, clean up everything, and turn off the machines. And congratulations, you've just finished milling your first circuit board. Thank you for watching. My name is Juan Jose Chong, and good luck milling circuit boards.